Hello friends, this is your friend back with a new fanfic, Naruto Trained by Sith Kushina, Part 2. If you like this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Now, let's start. Chapter 4. It has been nearly a month since Naruto started the academy. In that time Naruto had become friends with Shikamaru, Choji, and Kiba. Today was Saturday and Sasuke Uchiha was in his backyard practicing throwing shurikens when a voice said, "You lack hatred and power," getting his attention. He turned and saw a cloaked figure standing there with yellow eyes and a mask on that hid his face, and Sasuke asked, "Who are you?" And he was cut off as the person held up his hand and lightning flew at him, hitting him and making him scream in pain. The person stopped and said, "Silence, boy. My name is Darth Razan. I am here to give you power. Power to destroy your brother, power beyond your belief. I am your master and you will call me as such from now on." Sasuke was still feeling the pain and he said, "Never. I will never call you master." Through the pain, lightning hit him again and Razan said, "You just have to ask and I shall stop." Several moments later Sasuke said in a pained voice, "Stop, please stop." Razan asked, "Stop what?" as he continued to hit Sasuke with lightning. Sasuke said, "Please stop, master." Razan said, Good Sasuke. You will make a great apprentice. You are now mine." Sasuke stood up slowly and then went to throw some shurikens at Razan, who held his hand up, and Sasuke began to choke as his neck was squeezed, and Razan said, "Foolish boy. I am more powerful than you can ever imagine. You will do as I say and how I say do it. In return I shall give you power to avenge your clan. Do you understand?" Sasuke said in gasped breath, "Yes, master." He fell to the floor gasping for breath, and Revan said, "Good Sasuke, good. Now here. This is a gift," as he stabbed something in Sasuke's arm. Sasuke felt better in second and asked, "What was that, master?" as he looked at Razan. Razan said, "A small drug that will make your muscles stronger faster as well as something to make you feel better. Now this is for you," as he held out a small cube. Sasuke took it and asked, "What is this?" Razan said, "It's a device that will allow me to talk to you and tell you what I want without coming to see you. You will carry it with you at all times and show it to no one. I will appear on it and tell you my bidding. You will do as I say or I will kill you. You will tell no one about me or about ever meeting me. I can end your life on a whim and I know everything. I know how strong your brother is. I know where your brother is and I know how to make you stronger than your brother, but you will follow my orders without questions. Now are you ready to begin your training?" Sasuke said, "Yes, my master." Razan said, "Good, here is a scroll with a training schedule on it you will follow daily. Do not sleep at night until it is done. When you are ready I shall deliver your brother to you to be killed. Until then prepare my apprentice. I have only 2 orders for you now. I know of your new student in your class, Namikaze. He is a Jedi. His skills are from a weaker branch of my order. I will teach you to destroy him, but you are not to fight him or challenge him until then. At your current level he will kill you, but soon you will be stronger than him. If you disobey my orders I will kill you. My second order is I wish for you to humiliate the Hyuga heiress, Hinata Hyuga. When you have a chance to fight her I want you to hurt her, punish her, destroy her confidence. Every chance you get you are to publicly humiliate her. Use your hatred toward your brother as a fuel to do so, but do not kill her. You will not sexually hurt her either. That will get you killed by the Hyuga clan. I plan for you to show everyone how weak the Hyuga are and the strength of the Uchiha clan. Do you accept my orders?" Sasuke said, "Yes, my master," with a smile on his face. Razan said, "Good. Now sleep," as he placed his hand on Sasuke's head, making Sasuke pass out before leaving. When Sasuke woke up he thought, was that a dream, as he saw the scroll in his hand. He opened it and went wide-eyed and thought, this will make me stronger, as he read. 100 sit-ups, 100 push-ups, 100 punches with each fist, 100 kicks with each leg, 10 laps around the Uchiha district, 50 bullseyes with both kunais and shurikens. Swim 5 laps across the pond in the Uchiha district. The cube he received came to life and Sasuke saw the figure of Razan standing there about 6 inches tall, and he said, "What do you want?" Sasuke suddenly felt his throat being crushed again, and Razan said, "Do not speak to me as an equal or with contempt again, boy. You are now mine. Learn your place." I see you have read your scroll, but it's already 3 hours after sunrise. You should have already been training. Failure is not an option. Weakness will not be tolerated. Use your hatred to keep you going. Each time you feel yourself tiring, remember the blood of your family. Now get started before you try my patience. As Sasuke could finally breathe. Sasuke said in gasp breath, yes master, as he got to work training. Rasen image faded from the cube and Rasen thought, yes Sasuke, you are now mine. When Monday came around, Naruto was walking toward the academy when he heard the shouts of kids screaming, fight, fight, fight. He walked toward where the circle was and Naruto saw Sasuke being held back by Iruka and Hinata on the ground holding her face crying. He ran over to her and said, Hinata, are you alright? As he pulled her into an embrace. Hinata was crying and Naruto saw everyone looking and he said, get out of here. Can you see she's hurt? As he locked his eyes on Sasuke and said, what did you do to her? Sasuke stopped trying to get free of Iruka and said, that weakling should learn her place, not to try to talk to her betters, as Iruka let go of him. Naruto said, what the hell are you talking about? You weaker than her. Sasuke, HMPHED, and began to walk away when Iruka started to move toward Hinata and Naruto said, go take care of him. I will help her, as he picked her up bridal style and began carrying her away while she still held her face crying. When they were away, Naruto stopped and sat her against a tree and said in a kind voice, shush Hinata, it's okay. Let me see your face so I can help you. Hinata did not move her hand and Naruto reached up and pulled her hands away and Winston said, it's okay. I can help. Hinata was scared and Naruto placed his hand over the bruise on her right cheek and started to heal it with a minor healing jutsu he learned from his father's library. Hinata felt the healing jutsu working and then Naruto went to her other cheek and then her nose and she softly whispered, thank you, after it was done. Naruto said, no problem. Are you okay now? As he pulled out a canteen of water and pulled a handkerchief and poured water on it and began washing the blood from her face. Hinata nods and Naruto stood up and held out his hand and said, come on. Let's get to class. Hopefully they kick Sasuke out of school. Sasuke, after getting yelled at from Iruka, went to the bathroom to wash Hinata blood from her nose off his hands and he heard, good my apprentice good, as he looked in his weapons pouch and pulled out the cube. Sasuke said, thank you my master. Rasen said, continue with my other orders but now I have another mission for you. Comrades in friendship are weaknesses, especially your fangirls. You are to point out each of their flaws every time they bother you. Now go. Compassion is for the weak. Use your anger my apprentice and become powerful. Sasuke said, yes master, as he shut off the water and left. When Sasuke got back to class, Naruto, who was sitting by Hinata who was looking down, got up and walked up to Sasuke and grabbed him by his arms and slammed him into the wall and said, don't you ever do that again. Iruka, who walked in, said, Naruto, release him. Naruto looked at Iruka and then at Sasuke and slammed Sasuke into the wall again before he let go and walked back up to Hinata. Hinata said quietly, you didn't have to do that. Naruto said, I can't stand to see people be hurt like that. Hinata looked away with a small smile on her face as class began. As the day went by, everyone kept glancing at Sasuke, Naruto and Hinata. When lunch came around, Naruto looked at Hinata and said, come on Hinata, come have lunch with me and my friends. Hinata pushed her fingers together and said, I don't want to intrude. Naruto said, nonsense, come on, as he led her to the roof. When they got there, Naruto saw his 3 friends and said, hey guys. I brought someone to join us. I hope you don't mind, motioning toward Hinata. Kiba said, no man, it's cool. Shikamaru said, game, now, as he had a Bajarik board set up. Naruto said, still mad I beat you at both games. Shikamaru said nothing and they began their game and ate while Hinata sat quietly watching. The rest of the day was uneventful except every time one of Sasuke fangirls tried to talk to him he insulted them. After school, Naruto left to head home and Hinata waited until someone came to pick her up. Sasuke saw her and saw there was no one around, so he walked over and said, you weak little Hyuga. You can't even protect yourself, as he kicked her in the stomach as she was turning around. This was the scene Hiroi Hyuga, a branch member, walked up to, and when he got closer Sasuke stopped and said, pathetic Hyuga, you are weak. Hinata was coughing up blood from the kick as Sasuke walked away and Hiroi asked, "Are you okay, Hinata-sama?" Hinata nods as she slowly gets helped up. Time skip 1 month later. Iruka sighed as he walked into the Hokage office and the third looked up from his paperwork and said, "Ah Iruka, what can I do for you today?" Iruka said, "Sir, I am having trouble with a student and I don't know what to do." The third said, "What is the problem Iruka and who is the student?" Iruka said, "It's Sasuke Uchiha sir. Over the last month he's changed sir. I mean he has started fighting Hinata Hyuga every chance he can. It's like he has a feud with her and she's keeps going further and further into her shell because of it sir. I mean it's gotten to the point every time he even glances at her she flinches." The third sighed and said, "The Uchiha clan has always had a thing against the Hyuga clan. Apparently Sasuke must be trying to lash out against his clan's rival," as he lit his pipe. Iruka said, "It's not just that sir. Sasuke's attitude toward the entire class has changed. I mean he has quit ignoring his fangirls and has actually started to criticize them and I mean harshly about every fault they have. The girls, even after they get told off like they are think it's because he's afraid to get close to someone so they think it's an emotional defense. He's also started back talking all the teachers in the academy telling us how weak we are and also telling the other male students as well. I am afraid if something isn't done soon then someone is going to get hurt or killed sir." The third sighed and said, "It's even worse than that Iruka. Look at these," as he pulled out a folder and handed it to Iruka. Iruka began reading and went wide-eyed and said, "What is that boy thinking? I mean no one has ever dared to go into a restaurant to eat and then tell them when they gave him the bill he was an Uchiha and does not have to pay. It's not just food. There's also cloths, weapons, bookstore. What is he thinking?" The third sighed and said, "I don't know. The council decided to have the owners just send the bills to the council and they would pay for it out of his clan's savings plus 10 tip and everyone seems happy by this but because the civilians that agreed to it overvoted the clans who said he should be punished because they would never do that. It's all giving me a headache." Iruka asked, "What should we do?" The third said, "There's nothing we really could do right now. I mean you can get onto him in class and try to keep him away from Hinata but until he becomes a ninja I can't punish him since even academy students are considered civilians until they graduate. I can dictate who get in and what is taught but I can't kick him out because it would cause trouble for the entire village. I wish I could help." Iruka sighed and said, "Thank you sir. I am sorry to bother you." The third said, "Nonsense Iruka. I appreciate you telling me of this. If it gets worse inform me and I will see what I can do." Iruka sighs and nods before leaving. The third looked out the window and sighed. Chapter 5. Hiyashi Hyuga was sitting in his private study when a branch member knocked on his door. Hiyashi said, "Enter." The branch member walked in and bowed and said, "Forgive my intrusion sir but there is a visitor at the gates who requests an audience with you and the council." Hiyashi's eyes narrowed and said, "Who is it?" The branch member said, "Naruto Namikaze sir." Hiyashi's eyes went wide a moment and said, "Very well. Bring him to the council waiting area while I have them summoned." The branch member quickly left and Hiyashi had another branch member notify the council. 5 minutes later Naruto was standing outside the council chamber of the Hyuga clan when the door opened and a branch member said, "They will see you now." Naruto nods and walks into the chamber room and saw a table in front of him and one on the left and one on the right and there was around 13 men in the room and Naruto walked forward and then he heard the door to the council chamber close. He stood there for several moments and Hiyashi said, "Well are you going to inform us why you have come?" Naruto said, "I was giving proper respect as a guest and waiting until I had permission to speak. I have come to discuss a proposal." Hiyashi said, "What kind of proposal?" Naruto said, "I am sure you know of my unique status in the village and the fact of what will happen in just a few years when I come of age. I will automatically be granted clan status due to my father being the Hokage. That is actually one of my goals. I have come here today because of recent events that have been taking place between the Uchiha clan and the Hyuga clan. I know there has been history of bad blood between both clans for years. I wish to end this trouble before all of Konoha becomes involved." A council member asked, "What do you mean?" Naruto said, "Sasuke Uchiha attitude from what I have seen is causing a rift to form between the clans of Konoha and the civilian. I have heard talk from store owners about the deal the council has made to fix his trouble with the merchants, but he's becoming a bigger headache than that. I fear that it will only be a matter of time before his attitude will make the civilians of Konoha believe that all clans are like that. Now I am sure that the thought of the civilians toward your clan does not bother you, but the fact is he is causing a rift between the other clans as well by his insults and the fact he keeps insulting them. If this keeps, it won't be long until they will turn and start blaming your clan for this because of the fact that his initial attacks were against his clan's rival. They will start believing that the Hyuga clan can't keep their own trouble from spilling into the village, thus making your clan lose political power and weaken all the clans of Konoha. Hiashi said, "You seem to have considered this very thoroughly to make such an argument, but I don't see how anything you could propose would be able to help this situation." Naruto said, "Well, that is where my actual proposal comes in. The main flashpoint has been between Sasuke and your daughter Hinata. I am becoming sick of the Uchiha attitude toward her as well as my other friends among the heirs of rest of the clans, and officially at this moment I can't do much because he says it is a matter between him and the Hyuga every time he attacks Hinata and I step in. I wish to remove Hyuga clan from the equation as well as giving myself a chance to put him in his place." Another council member asked, "And how do you wish for us to do that?" Naruto pulled out a scroll and opened it and channeled chakra into it, and out popped a chest that he opened, and everyone's eyes went wide at the number of red rubies that were there, and Naruto said, "By removing Hinata from the Hyuga clan and have her move into mine." Everyone's eyes went wide and Hiashi said, "So you wish to marry my daughter?" Naruto said, "No." Everyone blinked and Hiashi asked, "What do you mean no? If you are not wanting to marry my daughter, then why bring out that chest of gems?" Naruto said, "As I said before, creating a clan is one of my goals, however I am not going to let it take 40 or 50 years for my clan. I have decided that none of the women who will mother my children will in fact be married to me. I do this for several reasons. One is because even though I will be the clan head, should I marry them they would have legal rights to learn my secret jutsu and skills such as this." As he waved his hand and Hiashi felt his chair suddenly began to float into the air, and Naruto said, "I have heard that the Hokage mentioned how I put 4 of his Anbu in the hospital in less than a second. What I am doing right now is a weaker version of what I did to them. I do not want to teach them about this or the other more powerful things I can do. I want them to only be known by my children, who I will teach my style and skills." As Hiashi was sat back down where he was, Naruto said, "I also do not want to learn any of the women who mother my children's skills either. Another reason is because if they do not know how I do it, then they can't be forced to tell others. My final reason for deciding not to marry any of them is because I know that it would cause rivalry between them and possibly destroy my clan from the inside. With number one woman being my first wife, or one I marry sooner than the other, then they cannot hold power over the other woman. That is why I will not marry them." Each of the council members thought for several minutes about what Naruto said and what they saw, and Hiashi asked, "Then if you are not wanting to ask her hand in marriage, yet you claim to want her to be the mother of your children, what exactly are you proposing?" Naruto said, "I know about the 2 seals my father created for your clan and gave you. The modified cage bird seal as well as the modified marriage seal. What I am proposing is that you declare Hinata Hyuga dead." Hiashi said while raising his voice, "You wish me to kill my daughter?" Naruto said, "Only in name." Everyone blinked and one member asked, "What do you mean?" Naruto said, "I have read all of Konoha laws. In the past, when a member from a clan that was not associated with Konoha fled from their clan and joined Konoha, we would officially declare them dead and then give them a new name. The Nara clan is one such clan that was created by that. What I am wanting you to do is declare Hinata Hyuga dead. She will forever lose the right to her family name, and then you use the marriage seal my father created to ensure that none of her children will pass on her bloodline, while also making sure no one can learn your family secret by coming for her eyes. I will only agree to that seal alone being on her. Once she is dead, I will offer her the choice of joining my clan with the knowledge she would be one of the mothers of my children. If she accepts, then if the Uchiha attacks her, then he is attacking my clan and I have the right to defend my clan, and then there will be nothing the village council can do against me if I have to hurt the Uchiha." Hiashi said, "But why would we do it? I mean, why would we want her dead and kick her out without hurting our clan's image, and what if she does not accept your offer?" Naruto then explained his idea of exactly how to pull it off as well as why. Everyone's eyes were wide thinking of what they heard, and Naruto said, and as for what will happen if she does not accept my offer, she will then most likely move in with Kurenai and say after 2 months you claim to have received proof of it being a setup and take her back in. However, I believe she will accept my offer. Hiashi asked, so what exactly is the chest for? Naruto said, it's payment for the loss of one of your family members. Even if she does not accept my offer, you get to keep the jewels, but you can't make a move for 2 months, and you also can never tell anyone about this deal, not even Hinata. If she accepts my offer, I want her to be faithful to my clan and not hate me later for it. She must believe that it is all real and she was set up, but nobody believed her. In the end, either way you win by washing your hands of this mess for a while or permanently. You become even richer, and all it would cost you is a little lie and possibly one family member if she does accept my offer. However, if she does, she will be part of my clan. You will never be able to try and force her back. We will draw up a contract that has a blood seal that requires mine, yours and the Hokage's blood to open it. That will be in his office. He won't know what's in it, and we will tell him it is just a matter of strengthening clan relations and it's a sign of trust between our clans. That way, if either of us break our word, then both our clans will look bad. You can't blame me for wanting a little protection after all. Hiashi said, you have made a very unique offer, but I would like to ask that we have some time to think this matter over. Naruto said, very well. I knew this would not be an easy decision and one that would affect your entire clan, which is why I came here today to speak of this. If everyone does agree to this offer and Hinata joins my clan, I will allow you and her sister to visit her after 2 months' time to show her you still care. I would not take her from her family like that. I will return to my home and allow you time to think. I did not attend the academy today because I wished to speak with you without chance Hinata overhearing in case you turned my proposal down as well as my previously stated reasons. May the force be with you all, as he sealed the chest and left. After Naruto was gone, Hiashi slumped into his chair and said, that boy is dangerous. A council member asked, what do you mean? Hiashi said, he has us trapped. He knows it. I know it. The political trap he just sat for us is more than even Danzo could think of. He knew before he came here today that he had all the cards. Everything he said is true, and because of the Uchiha he is in a position to gain power. Not a lot, but more than he would have as a simple clan head. Another council member asked, how would he gain power? Hiashi said, he would gain power by taking her, and after we discarded her he would gain a little respect from those who support Hinata. It's quite brilliant actually. An elder member said, so what should we do? I mean, should we turn down his offer or accept it? Hiashi sighed and closed his eyes to think when a knock was heard on the door to the council chamber, and Hiashi said, enter. A branch member entered and said, forgive me Hyuga-sama, but a message from the Hokage just arrived about Hinata-sama. Each of the council members stiffened at this, and Hiashi asked, what is it? The branch member said, it appears she is in the hospital, sir. She was placed in a spar by the teacher assistant Mizuki against the Uchiha, and weapons were allowed, sir, and the Uchiha used poison weapons, sir. She was taken to the hospital and will make a full recovery in a day or two. Hiashi clenched his fist as blood came out of his hand and said, thank you. After he was gone, a council member said, this is getting us nowhere. This was a direct threat to our clan. I think we should accept Namikaze-san offer. If we don't, we are going to have to make an example out of the Uchiha, which will cost us greatly in the village. Hiashi sighed and said, I hate to say it, but I must agree. There is nothing we can do to him, but Naruto can. If he kills the Uchiha and the civilians want his head, we can take Hinata back in our clan after his death and say we found out it was him who set up this mess. Each of the members nodded and began planning what to do, and Hiashi left to go check on his daughter. Naruto punched the wall outside the hospital room of Hinata and thought, that bastard. How dare he use poison blades on her? Kushina said, son, I think you are going to have to put him in his place soon. The third Hokage was sitting in a chair watching Naruto. He had been the one to deliver the message when Naruto was walking out of the Hyuga compound, and Naruto overheard it. He sighed and said, she's going to be okay, Naruto. I have the best doctor healing her now. Naruto said, what of the bastard? What's going to happen to him? The third said, I have suspended him from the academy for the next month. It's all I can do at the moment. Naruto gritted his teeth and slammed his fist into the wall again, and it cracked and said, damn it. Just 2 minutes. That's all I ask. 2 minutes. Hiashi stepped around the corner and saw Naruto and the third there and he said, Hokage-sama, Naruto-san. What are you both doing here? Naruto said, I am here checking on Hinata since I am not allowed to go near the Uchiha at the moment, as he pushed the wall again and its spider webbed. Each of the men were shocked and a nurse said, please stop destroying the hospital. Naruto glared at her and she flinched and he closed his eyes hearing his mother telling him to calm down and he sat down into a meditative position and lightning began to flick off his body for several minutes. Hiashi watched this for several minutes even with his bloodline and he finally gave up trying to figure it out and he asked, so why are you here Hokage-sama? The third said, I was outside your home when Naruto stepped out and he heard me informing the guards. To make sure he did not kill Sasuke I am making him stay with me until he calms down while we check on Hinata. Naruto opened his eyes and darted toward Hinata room in a blur and both men looked at each other and then quickly followed him and were shocked when they saw Naruto holding a man by the neck and Naruto said, who are you and what are you doing in here? The man tried to get free and Naruto put more pressure on it and the man felt spots in his vision and said, alright. I will talk. Naruto loosened his hold on the man's neck and he said, I was paid to deliver something to her. Naruto asked, what is it and who paid you? The man said, I don't know his name. Some kid with black hair. He paid me 500.00 to put that package in her room without getting caught. Naruto looked at the package and grabbed it and opened the package and said, you ever see this kid before? The man rubbed his neck and said, no. I'm a freelance. I was coming to see if I can get an odd job from the villages I passed through and I was talking to the guy at the mission office about getting a job. They didn't have any so I started to leave when that kid called me over and paid me cash in advance to deliver his girlfriend here this get well gift. He said he couldn't do it himself because she nobility and he's not. I needed money so I asked what room and he told me. I was planning just dropping the gift off and leaving to get a drink. Naruto sighed and said, can I please kill the bastard Hokage-sama, as he looked at the Hokage. The man said holding his hands up, wait, don't kill me. Naruto said, not you. Shut up and act like you're not here. Hiashi walked over and looked in the box and his eyes hardened and said, not before me, as he started to leave. The third walked in front of Hiashi and said, what's in the box Hiashi? Naruto reached into the shoe box and pulled out a doll that was dressed like Hinata and had the eyes cut out and red paint all over it to look like blood and a note that Naruto read out loud, maybe next time, as he threw the note on the ground. The third sighed and said, damn it. He is becoming a disaster, as he rubbed his eyes. Naruto said, what do we have to do to be able to actually punish him Hokage-sama? The third said, you can't do anything to him for what he has done to Hinata, Naruto. As for Hiashi, he can do anything either because of the fallout against his clan. Hiashi looked at Naruto and said, I would like to have a document held in trust by you Hokage-sama. It's about a recent agreement between the Namikaze clan and my clan. Naruto eyed him and said, yes Hokage-sama. We can come by say tomorrow after we finalize the paperwork for our agreement, as he then looked at the Hokage. The third eyed both of them and said, very well however I do not want either of you to go after the Uchiha. Naruto said, alright, if you don't mind can you take Mr. Freelance and get him out of here. I will leave shortly after checking on Hinata and head back with Hiashi-san to finalize our paperwork. Hiashi said, we won't attack the Uchiha. The third looked at both and then said, alright, I am taking you at your word. Now if you would come with me sir we can get this mess straightened out. The man nods and both left. Once the door clicked Naruto said, for now, as he walked over to check on Hinata. He began to flash through hand signs and his hand was encased in green chakra and Hiashi raised an eyebrow and said, medical jutsu, as he watched Naruto run his hand over Naruto. Naruto said, yeah, as he ran his hand over Hinata and said, that's strange, as he stopped and let the green glow fade. Hiashi looked at him and asked, what? Naruto said, was Hinata Mama Hyuga? Hiashi said, yes, why? Naruto looked in thought a moment and said, would you mind if I checked something? Hiashi asked, check what? Naruto said, she's got a seal. Hiashi blinked and asked, what do you mean she got a seal? Naruto said, when I was just checking her with the scanning jutsu my chakra was repelled by something. I know the effect from when it happens to me. It when you come across a seal. I just was wondering why she has a seal on her. Hiyashi said, she shouldn't. Where is it at? Naruto said, it's either on her back or her chest by her heart. I can't be sure unless I checked. Hiyashi frowned and said, very well, but I am watching. Naruto nods and said, I am going to have to move her gown to check. You understand that, right? Hiyashi said, yes. Naruto nods and undid the shoulder snap on Hinata gown and pulled it down just enough to show where her heart was, and he channeled chakra on her skin and nothing happened, and Naruto said, well, let's check the back then. As he rolled her over and did the same on her back, and he whistled and said, come check this out. Hiyashi walked around and asked, what? Naruto channeled chakra again and Hiyashi saw a seal appear and he asked, what is it? Naruto said, a disruptor seal. Hiyashi asked, what's it do? Naruto said, don't know. If she was a prisoner I could guess, but I can't be sure as to why she would have one. I mean, they usually are made to either disrupt either chakra, concentration, stamina, or thought. I only read about them in my dad's notes and recognize the basic design, but I don't know what it would be disrupting. Hiyashi frowned and asked, any way to tell how old the seal is? Naruto said, years. I say based on the slight wear around the edge at least 5 years. Why? As he laid her back down, fixing her gown and covering her up. Hiyashi said, when Hinata was 3 she was kidnapped by Kumo. I killed the ninja, but he had made it from her room to the walls of our compound before he was stopped. Naruto said, it could have been him that did it then, but I couldn't tell for sure. I may know some by seals and can recognize them, but I am not a seal master like my father. I basically use storage seals but tried to learn enough to help me if I ever had anyone mess with mine. Hiyashi sighs and said, so can you take it off? Naruto said, me no. My dad's student Kakashi might though. Hiyashi nods and said, well, besides the seal, is she okay? Naruto placed his hand on her head and then a few moments later pulled it back and said, yeah. I just put her in a mini medical coma. It will make her recover faster. I will wait outside so we can leave after you're ready. Hiyashi looked at Hinata a few minutes and said, why did you choose Hinata? As Naruto hand touched the door handle. Naruto frowned a moment and said, it may seem like I am wanting to use her to you, and to some extent you are right. I do want her to be the mother of some of my children, but I could actually have any woman I want, so that's not the reason I am doing this. Because of my abilities that I have been trained in, when I meditate I can see the possible future. It's not set in stone and is forever changing. Every action we take changes it. I can't control what I see or when I see it, so it's not something you can use as a weapon or a defense, and like I said, it's not set in stone. I have seen the possible end of Konoha as well as possibly my own death. I have also seen the possible birth of my children and grandchildren and the death of everyone on this planet. Hinata's future is one I have seen several times. I have seen her as a great healer, a loving mother, a true warrior, a branch member, the murder of her clan, and I have also seen her possible death as well as other things. Even if I do nothing, some of those things can still happen. I have seen her broken before, a shell of herself, discarded and living a life like mine before my mother came to me. I want her in my clan because I think I can help her become something great. My methods of doing this may seem disturbing and on some level one agree, but a great man once said that the brightest diamonds sometimes come from the darkest pieces of coal. Right now Hinata is a piece of coal, overlooked, spat on and ignored, but I think with a little time and the right ingredients she can become a beautiful diamond. That's why. As he walked out the door, Hiyashi watched Naruto leave and thought, odd, for some reason I felt those words had more meaning behind them than everything he said when we were in front of the council. Kushina smiled inside Naruto and thought, now there was the true Naruto. Time skipped 2 days later. Hinata finished slipping on her cloths in her hospital room. Today she was getting to leave and was just waiting on a nurse to come in and do her final check before she could leave. Hinata sighed looking at the door when she heard a noise behind her. Before she had a chance to move she felt a sharp pain in the back of her neck and she passed out on the bed. A little while later Hinata was walking down the street of Konoha on her way home when she saw a branch member being punished by the cage bird seal. She turned and saw a main branch member using it and she said, "Stop it," as she ran over to the main branch member. The main branch member said, "What are you doing, Hinata? This man is being punished for failing to do his job. Hinata said, stop it or I will make you. The man said, no. Now go home, as he went to activate the seal again. Several people were looking and Hinata pulled out a kunai and went to stab the main house member who stepped away and hit her with a Jiyuken strike. Hinata passed out and fell to the ground. The man said, carry her back to the mansion, as he began to walk away. The branch member, after a few moments of trying to get over having the seal used on him, got up and picked her up and began to carry her back to the mansion. Several hours later, when Hinata woke up, she found herself in her bed and she saw her father sitting there, and he looked at her and said, how could you, Hinata? Hinata said, sorry father, as she looked down. Hiyashi said, how could you attack a council member like that? Hinata looked up shocked and said, what do you mean father? Hiyashi said, I mean when you were on your way home from the hospital. Several witnesses saw you try to stop the council member from punishing a branch member, and then you tried to make him stop, and when he refused you pulled out a kunai and attacked him. Hinata was wide-eyed and said, but father, I. Hiyashi held up his hand and said, save it Hinata. There were over 30 witnesses. I did all I could Hinata to keep you from being killed. Hinata was shocked and said, but. Hiyashi said, your punishment has already been determined Hinata. There's nothing I can do now. You have been stripped of your title as heiress of the Hyuga clan, and as of this moment you are no longer a Hyuga. In the eyes of the Hyuga clan you are now officially dead. I did all I could Hinata, but it was either this or your actual death. You have to leave the house forever. Hinata was shocked and crying and thought, impossible, this can't be happening. It wasn't me. Why? Hiyashi saw his daughter like this and he said, I had all your possessions sealed into this scroll Hinata. I wish there was something I can do, but because there is so much evidence my hands are tied. I can't even arrange for you a place to stay or give you any money. I had to threaten to leave the clan to let them give you your stuff. They placed a seal on you, but it's not the cage bird seal. It's one designed by the Yondaime. It's the one we give Hyuga who marry outside of the family. None of your children, if you ever have any, will have your bloodline. Don't worry about being tortured with it. It won't let anyone, and it will also protect your bloodline from someone stealing it. The seal is on the back of your neck, as he handed her the scroll. Hinata said, but father, it wasn't me. I swear, as she had tears out of her eyes. Hiyashi closed his eyes and pulled his daughter into a hug and thought, I know Hinata. I am so sorry. And he said, I got to walk you to the door now. I love you daughter. Hinata could not move as Hiyashi stood up and opened the door. 2 branch members were on each side of the door, and she slowly got up and looked around her room one last time and slowly followed her father out of the house. As they walked to the front door, the council members were all standing outside, and one stepped forward and said, for attacking a council member of the Hyuga clan, from this day forward Hinata Hyuga is dead. You will no longer refer to yourself as such. Do so and you will be killed. Now leave our grounds at once or be executed for trespassing, as each of them turned their backs away from her. Hinata was shocked and walked slowly out the gates thinking, this can't be happening. Why me? As she stepped outside, the gates were closed and locked and everyone walked back inside. Hinata looked back at the house as tears fell out of her face and thought, what now? As she began to walk toward the village. A little bit later she was walking past the Namikaze gate when it opened. Naruto walked outside the gates and saw Hinata standing there. She looked at him with her cheeks stained from tears and Naruto said, come Hinata. Hinata said, what? In a shocked voice. Naruto said, I know what happened and I don't think you did it. I was with your father when he heard about what happened. I went to find out how you were after I went to the hospital to check on you again and found out you were not there. I know what the Hyuga Council decision was. I know how you have no food, money, home, bed, or anything else besides what you have in that scroll. I know you have no one to take care of you. I will give you a place to stay tonight and I have an offer for you. It's late and nearly dark. Come inside and I will give you something to eat and a bed to sleep on for the night and we can discuss my offer for you. Hinata was in a daze trying to figure out what to do, and Naruto saw this and said, do you have anywhere else you can go? Hinata thought and realized she didn't and said, no, as she looked down. Naruto said, then come inside. I hope you like miso ramen and dango. Hinata closed her eyes in defeat and walked inside Naruto gate. He closed it and she waited and followed him up to his temple. As she walked up the stairs she was glancing around and was shocked by how beautiful it was inside with waterfalls and gardens, and Naruto led her through the main hall up the stairs to the second floor to the dining hall, which had a glass window that allowed you to look out over Konoha somewhat. Naruto said, "Please sit while I bring the food." Hinata did as told and Naruto left and returned a few minutes later with a tray and sat it down and uncovered it and handed her a plate and took one for himself and gave both of them a glass of water. Hinata sat looking at it and Naruto said, "Eat, Hinata. I know you must be hungry. You're going to need your strength to survive." Hinata forced herself to take a few bites of the ramen and she stopped and asked, "Why?" Naruto stopped eating as well and after clearing his mouth with a drink he asked, "Why what?" Hinata looked at him and asked, "Why are you helping me?" Naruto sighed and said, "Because I know what it's like to be alone with nothing. I also believe you didn't do it. I think it might have been Sasuke again." At the name of Sasuke fear appeared in her eyes and Naruto said, "Relax, he can't hurt you here." "No one can." Hinata eased a little but still held fear and Naruto said, "I have an offer for you, Hinata. You see, I have a dream I wish to fulfill. I want you to help me fulfill that dream." Hinata looked at him and Naruto looked into her eyes with a soft smile on his face and kindness in his eyes and he said, "Because of the laws of Konoha, when I come of age I will be allowed to start a new clan in Konoha. I am going to do that. I am going to create a new clan, but I can't do it alone. My dream is to have my children be a clan better than every other clan. One who do not divide themselves into separate house and belittle their children. One that will be strong but also compassionate. I know it's going to take a lot of hard work and sacrifices, and that is why I have decided that I will never marry. I instead will pick several women who have strength, courage, compassion, honor, and love." Hinata listened and asked, "But what does that have to do with me?" Naruto looked at her and he reached into his pocket and pulled out a piece of coal and said, "Do you see that, Hinata? Right now as you are that piece of coal. Weak, timid, and without hope, but I know I can help change you from that piece of coal." As he covered the coal with his hand and said, "Into this." As he uncovered it and Hinata looked at gasped as there was a diamond sitting where the coal was a moment before. Naruto said, "If you accept my offer, Hinata, to become one of the mothers of my children to help me fulfill my dream, I will help you become strong, give you a home, give you the ability to show not only yourself but everyone else that you are not just some unwanted piece of coal but a beautiful gem that shines brighter than the sun. That is my offer to you. I know this is a lot taken and you need time to think, so finish eating and I will show you to your room. Tomorrow you can tell me if you accept. I won't lie, Hinata. I will be tough at first for you. It was for me back when I first started as well, but nothing in life is ever given to you. If you truly want this, then you will have to work at it. You can't give up, Hinata. There are still people who want you. I want you. Now I will allow you time to eat while I make sure your room is ready." As he got up and left, Hinata sat there shocked. She was unable to think clearly at that moment. Naruto words rang through her head as she finished her meal. She did not even realize it when Naruto led her to her room and when she crawled into bed. She never realized when she finally passed out. The next morning when Hinata awoke, Naruto was standing beside her bed with a tray of food and he placed it on her bed and he started to leave and she asked, "Why me?" Naruto stopped and said, "Because I can already see the diamond waiting for someone to help make it shine." Hinata closed her eyes and made a choice that would forever change her life and said, "I accept." Chapter 6. Naruto turned to look at her in the eyes and said, "Are you sure? I mean, if you accept, you will become a member of my family for the rest of your life, fall under my protection and leadership. There will be times I will ask things of you that might make you hate me and times where I will do things you don't understand. I will do everything I can to make sure you are taken care of for the rest of your life. Once you make your final choice, you will be bound to it for life. Your life will be mine. Do you accept?" Hinata said, "Yes, I accept." Naruto reaches into his pouch and pulled out a scroll and said, "Then sign this and you officially become a member of the Namikaze clan," as he handed her the scroll. She opened it and read it but did not understand most of what was said and asked, "What do I sign it with?" Naruto said, "Give me your hand." Hinata did and Naruto touched her finger and she flinched and Naruto moved his hand and said, "Sorry, for an oath like this and to make it legal it has to be signed by your own hand and your own blood. That way you can't change your mind later." Hinata nods and began to sign her name but stopped after she signed her first name, remembered what her family said the day before, and Naruto saw this and took her into a hug and said, "It's okay, I know, you have family again, Hinata. This time one that actually cares for you. I know your father and little sister care for you, but your father duties to the Hyuga clan got in the way of his duty to his daughter, and as for your sister, she too young to understand right now. When she's old enough to understand, she can see how strong and beautiful her older sister has become and then realize how big of a mistake the Hyuga clan made losing you. Become the light that will inspire her to change the Hyuga clan so this never happens to anyone again." Hinata looked down again and said, "I never got to tell her goodbye." Naruto said, "Good. That way it's not forever." Hinata cried into his shoulder for several minutes, and when she calmed down he asked, "So do you want to become that light for your sister?" Hinata nodded and smiled, and Naruto said, "Good. Finish eating and join me in the dining hall so I can take you to begin your training. We won't be going back to the academy for a week or two. I already informed the Hokage and he cleared it, so don't worry." Hinata looked at him shocked, and Naruto said, "You wondering how I knew you would accept, right?" Hinata nodded and Naruto said, "It's a secret I will tell you after you finish your training for the day. Now eat, you're going to need your energy. Your room here has its own bathroom, so if you need one, go ahead. We will begin training when you have prepared yourself," as he walked out of the room and closed the door. When Hinata walked into the dining hall, Naruto said, "Are you ready?" Hinata nods and Naruto said, "Good, until you have passed my training for you from this moment on. When we are here you will call me master since I will be teaching you. You are now my apprentice, do you understand?" Hinata said, "Yes, master." Naruto said, "Good, second order is when I give you a command you are to do it without question. Everything I have you do is for a reason. Never question my orders. Do you understand?" Hinata said, "Yes, master." Naruto said, "Good, my next command is that you will never tell anyone what happens here without my permission. Do so and you will be punished." Hinata flinched and said, "Yes, master." Naruto said, "Good, now follow me to your first training." Hinata followed him into another room that was nothing but a circle of mirrors, and Naruto said, "Wait here," as he walked out the doorway and a mirror-covered stone slid down except for a small slot at the bottom. Hinata looked around and saw herself in every mirror alone, and the room was well lighted, but she could not tell how. A Naruto voice came from the slot and said, "Now Hinata, your first task, take off everything and slide it through the slot." Hinata went wide-eyed and said, "What?" Naruto said, "Remember the rules, Hinata, no questions." Hinata closed her eyes and after several minutes she started to take her cloths off and pushed them out the slot. Naruto asked, "Are you completely now?" Hinata said, "Yes," in a timid voice. Naruto voice said, "Good, your first training is as follow. This room I call the Chamber of Truth. I want you for the next 24 hours to stand and look at yourself from every angle in the mirrors. In this room you cannot hide from yourself. You have nothing to hide yourself behind, which is why I had you remove your cloths. Now I want you to look at yourself and speak out loud and tell yourself what you think of yourself. You have to speak it. Tell everything about yourself. Your strengths, weakness, looks, everything. If you do not do this you will never leave this room. No food or water until you are done. If you need the restroom ask for one and I will give you access to it, but that is all I will give you access to. This has to be done. I must go now and take care of some stuff. I will know if you don't do it. Goodbye." Hinata heard footsteps leaving and she looked at herself in the mirror. After about 20 minutes she said, "I am weak, scared, worthless," and over the next 24 hours she would talk about how weak and useless she was and would never tell anything good about herself. Naruto, who had never left, sat outside the room writing everything she said in a scroll. The next morning when the wall opened, Naruto walked into the room where she was asleep on the floor and said, "Wake up, Hinata." Hinata awoke and saw she was still and tried to cover herself as best as she could, and Naruto did not look at her because he had a blindfold over his eyes, and he held out a scroll and said, "Quit hitting and read this." Hinata looked down and reached a hand up and took the scroll and began reading. As she did, tears were in her eyes, and Naruto said, "That Hinata is everything you said about yourself yesterday. On that list you told about every weakness that you think you have. I look at that list and I see nothing but lies, Hinata. I also do not see anything about how strong you are, how beautiful or smart you are. Now read this list, as he handed her another scroll. She took it and began to read, and Naruto said, that second scroll is all truths. They are what you really are. Which of those lists do you want to be? Quit lying to yourself. The list of lies or the list of truths? Hinata after several moments said, the truths. Naruto noticed that she talked without a stutter and said, I can't hear you, what do you want to be? Hinata looked at him and said in a more commanding voice, I want to be the truths. I want to be everything you said I was. With no stutter. Naruto heard that she was becoming more open and more confident and said, I can't hear you. Say it with all your might and truth of heart. Scream it to the heavens. Hinata screamed, I want to be strong, I want to be confident, I am tired of being weak and scared. Naruto heard her huffing and said, good, follow me, as he began walking out the room. Hinata got off the floor and began following him even though she was still, and Naruto led her through the temple up some stairs and then down a hallway and a stone wall lifted, and Naruto walked up a flight of stairs with Hinata following, and then another stone wall slid up and Hinata found them walking into a glass room, and Naruto, who was still blindfolded, turned to her and could tell she was not timid anymore, even in the open, and he said, go to the center of the room and kneel. Hinata did as he said and Naruto walked around her and said, this Hinata is my own private chamber of solace. No one but me can get in here. You have to have my abilities to ever get here. I see that you are becoming stronger than you have. You are beginning your new life. From this moment on, forget everything about your past. Like your family said, the weak, timid, unwanted Hinata Hyuga is now dead. That was the purpose of the trial you just completed. To allow you to bury your past and to begin a new life. A snap has caught her attention and Naruto was standing in front of her and said, do not move, as he lowered a blue blade of energy to each of her shoulders and said, from this moment forward you are Lady Hinata, Lady of the House Namikaze. As he shut off the blade and reached into his cloak he had on and pulled out a second cloak and said, this is your official clan robe. Now arise Lady Hinata and put on your robes. Hinata stood up and said, thank you master, as she took them and put them on. Naruto nodded and when he heard her put her cloths on took off his blindfold and said, now look at the world through your now opened eyes. Hinata looked around and Naruto saw resolve settling in her and after a few minutes he said, come, let's begin your true training, as he began leading her away. Hinata followed behind her master in her purple robe that was slipped on like a dress but could be unbuttoned in the front with a hood, and Naruto stopped lead her to the main hall and he walked to the wall and pushed on a brick that went into the wall and said, there are secrets everywhere here. I built everything that is above ground here. For now I want you to sit down and meditate while listening to me while the room changes. Hinata sat down and closed her eyes to meditate and Naruto sat across from her and asked, calm yourself Hinata and search out your surrounding with your feeling. There is an energy that exists in everything. Not chakra or anything like that. It is a true energy known as the Force. It flows through us, surrounds us, binds us all together with all life in the universe, and yes, there is life all over the universe. Believe it or not, but my mother is not even from this galaxy. Hinata's eyes opened up to look at Naruto and Naruto said, it's true. Besides myself you are now the only other person on this planet that knows that. You noticed the two statues outside as we walked in. Hinata nods and Naruto said, the one of a woman is my mother whose second name is Kushina Uzumaki and later it became Namikaze after she married my father. The other statue is also my mother but her true name is Revan. She was originally a Jedi, which is a Force user that follow the light side of the Force. They are known as the peacekeepers of the galaxy. Now as all things you can't have light without darkness. Those who follow the dark side of the Force are known as Sith. When she was a Jedi she was just known as Revan, but then war broke out and the Jedi were asked to lead an army to stop the enemy that was going from world to world conquering it. She was the leader of the army and she defeated the enemy, but during the cleanup she learned of another threat to the galaxy. She saw that people did not want another war after so many people lost their lives and they began getting rid of their weapons, so she made a choice. She decided to save hundreds of billions of people. She disappeared for a short time and fell to the dark side of the Force and became a Sith Lord by the name of Darth Revan and led an army against her former allies, forcing them to get ready again. She was responsible for the death of millions. Hinata. Then her apprentice turned on her and tried to kill her and to take over as the Sith Lord. She lost her memory for a while and rejoined the Jedi, relearning everything while the war was going on, and eventually brought an end to the war by defeating her apprentice and destroying a huge factory in space called the Star Forge. She saw there was no way the Republic or the known galaxy where all this took place it would be able to fight what was coming, so she left the Republic to fight a one-person army. She found the threat and fought it, and her ship wound up being damaged and crashed her on this world in the ocean. She was found by a fishing ship and taken to the mainland, and then she was attacked by a ninja from Whirlpool. She killed him and discovered the reason he attacked her was because he thought she was stopping him for asking for aid from Konoha during the last Great War. She decided to finish his mission for him, but by the time she got here Whirlpool had already been destroyed. She kept the disguise of a Whirlpool ninja the rest of her life. She left the threat to the galaxy and the Force alone and fell in love with my father, got married, and eventually it came to the day I was born. Hinata, who was listening to all this, was having a hard time to believe, and Naruto said, "The thing is, the Force, even when she was not using it anymore, was still using her. The day she went into labor, the pain of having me sent echoes of pain through the Force. The Kyuubi, who is actually not a demon but something else I will explain later, felt her pain, and he came because he believed that his former masters had returned and was in danger. That is why Kyuubi attacked, because of my birth." Hinata was stunned and Naruto laid his lightsaber on the ground, not activated, and it began to float, and Naruto said, "That right there is the power of the Force, so you can see that what I was saying is all true." As it sat back down, Naruto grabbed it and put it away, and Hinata asked, "How do you know all this? Where is your mother?" Naruto sighed and said, "My mother, the day I was born, was dying from complications during labor. She had my father leave her alone with me a few minutes, and she turned herself into the Force itself and bound herself to be. She saw asleep inside of me where the Kyuubi is sealed for 4 years, and when she awoke she beat the shit out of Kyuubi and then found out why it attacked, and then she went through my memories while I recovered from the attack the villagers did to me, thinking I was Kyuubi itself, and she had me come here and she began training me, and I am both a Jedi and a Sith, and yet I am neither. My mother and I both realize the Force is not light and dark, it is the Force itself. What we do with it is what matters. A friend of my mother's call those who use both grays, but there has never been a master of both. That is what I am. I am born Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, and I have taken the name Darth Razan, the first true Force master. That is what I want to teach our children when we have them. I want them to be true Force master, neither Jedi or Sith." Hinata asked, "Why did you tell me this?" Naruto said, "I am telling you this so you will believe about the Force. I am not going to teach you to use the Force and become like me. I am going to teach you enough about the Force so that you can see and feel it and use it in you fighting. In Jedi terms, you, Hinata, and each of the other women I will find later will be considered younglings or a Force user who is not chosen by a master to be an apprentice. I am not doing this because I don't want you to learn any more than that, but Jedi, which are the better teachers of the Force, take children before the age of 6 to begin training. The older a person is when they start learning it, the more dangerous to that person and others it is. It's not that I don't want to teach you more than I am about the Force. It's just you're too old. The Force is a lot more than a tool to use in fighting. When a Force user meditates, they sometimes see the future. It could be a few minutes to 1,000 years down the road. You can't control what you see, and the future is always changing because of the decisions we make. Remember how I told you I knew you would accept? That was how I knew. Force users can kill with a thought, Hinata. It's something that takes lots of patience to use the Force. Now do you have any questions?" Hinata asked, "What exactly is Kyuubi?" Naruto said, "Remember me telling you about the enemy my mother fought before she crashed here? They are called the Ancients. At one time they ruled the entire universe, or so it is believed. Kyuubi and the other demons are actually creatures, the Ancients, who are also Force users created to help fix this world. When the Ancients were here originally, this planet was tearing itself apart with natural disasters like fires, floods, earthquakes and other things. Kyuubi and the others would stop the disasters and fix the damage. From what Kyuubi told me, eventually the Ancients brought slaves to this world to colonize this world. The Ancients may have ruled the universe, but everyone who was not them were slaves." Hinata looked down and said, "You know what's scary about all this?" "I believe you." Naruto said, "I'm glad because it's the truth." Hinata said, "You said you can see the future. Have you seen my future?" Naruto sighed and said, several different futures, but none of them will happen now. Hinata asked, "What do you mean?" Naruto looked at her and said, "In nearly all of the futures I saw for you, Hinata, the one where you become a powerful medic nin, or the one where you become a branch member, or the one where you killed your entire clan, or when you were killed and other things, I saw that because of how your family treated you in all of them you were never actually happy. The shell that I had you destroy in your first lesson took control of your life. When you were a powerful medic nin, your husband used you as nothing but a slave and servant. The one where you were a branch member, you were constantly tortured with the cage bird seal. The one where you killed your clan forced you to marry Sasuke, who repeatedly raped you. The one where you were killed was because you had no confidence in your own skills, because you believed what your family told you, so you would just give up. That was why I decided to give you a chance for happiness, a chance to show that you are strong and beautiful, to have someone who actually cared for you. That was why I tricked Sasuke and why I spoke to the Hyuga clan and your father." Hinata was listening to it all and she had her eyes locked on his and asked, "What do you mean you tricked Sasuke?" Naruto said, "After Sasuke started attacking you every day and nobody would do anything, I put on my robes and my mask that I wear as Darth Rasen and went to the Uchiha district. I beat the shit out of him with the force and told him that I could give him the power to defeat his brother, but he had to start following my orders. I gave him a training schedule of just basic training that I got out of a book and had him start venting his anger of the Hyuga clan to other things. I tried to get him to stop attacking you altogether, but he would not, no matter what I did. I thought if I could distract him you wouldn't be hurt anymore. For that I failed." Hinata's eyes softened a little and thought, "At least he tried," and said, "What about my clan?" Naruto sighed and said, "The day you were poisoned by Sasuke, I was at the Hyuga compound speaking with the council and your father. I had researched all the laws of Konoha trying to find a way to help you, and I found one way to not only stop Sasuke attacks but also to give you a chance for happiness. I had told them my plan of how to get rid of the political headache they had thanks to Sasuke, and I offered them a trunk full of 1,000 rubies to go with my plan. I did not tell them I wanted to help you. I used their egos against them since I knew they cared more about their name than they did people, and they told me they would think it over, and I was leaving the house when the Hokage showed up to tell your father about your latest attack and that you were in the hospital. I was halfway to the Uchiha district when the Hokage caught me and said if I attacked Sasuke I would be kicked out of Konoha. I then went with him to the hospital to check on you when your father showed up. As we were talking, Sasuke had hired a mercenary to deliver a package to your room. I felt the guy in the force and barged into your room and nearly killed him. He then explained he just was delivering a package from your boyfriend. We all knew it was from Sasuke, but there was no proof. Inside the box was a doll with cloths like yours who had its eyes cut out and red paint on it and a note that said maybe next time. Your father and I both tried to get out to kill Sasuke, but the Hokage stopped us and your father agreed to my idea. The day you got out of the hospital someone knocked you out, right?" Hinata's eyes were wide and she said, "It was you, wasn't it?" Naruto sighed and said, "Yeah. Your father entered a few moments later and took you both to your room while I used a genjutsu, henge, and the force to make myself look like you, while the council member who we had chosen acted like he was using the seal on his little brother. I then attacked him and he acted like he knocked me out and had his brother take me away. We did it in the civilian district in front of several people so it would be more believable. That was my plan so that I could give you a choice." Hinata asked, "What choice?" "You made the decision for me all the way." Naruto pulled out a scroll and a lighter and set them down in front of her and said, "Those are yours. It's the contract I had you sign. The deal I made with your family was if you declined my offer to join my clan, then after 2 months they would say they found out it was all set up and take you back into your clan. I am giving you the scroll and the lighter and I ask you for those 2 months. If you're not happy with your life here, you can burn the scroll and be free to return to your clan. You can burn it now and walk out that door and I will never bother you again. It's all your choice now. I told you the truth because I can't lie to you. I want any future we have together to be one of trust and honesty. I want you in my life, but I don't want you as a servant or out of duty or guilt, and I don't want a slave or hatred. I want you for you by my side and someday one of the mothers of my children." Hinata looked at him and then the scroll and lighter and then him, and she screamed in frustration, and to Naruto's shock said, "Damn it," as she started to rub her temples. Naruto said, "I think I created a monster." Hinata glared at him and he said, "Oops, too far. I think I will give you a little time to think. If you decide to stay, the training ground below is set up. The dummy will spin and try to hit you at random times with the training stun staffs they have. Your training is to try and make it from one end to the other without being hit more than 5 times. If you do get him more than that, you have to start all over. May the force be with you," as he quickly left. Hinata watched him leave and thought, "I am going to kill him," as she looked at the scroll again. After about 10 minutes she thought, "At least after 2 months I might be stronger so I can kill him and the council." As she got up and went down to the training arena, which had around 400 wooden men who each had a white rod sticking out of each hand, one going each way. As she took her first step into the arena, they started to spin in place and she dodged the first couple, and then she was hit by the first one and she screamed, "They're fucking electrified, you bastard. You not going to be able to have kids when I get my hands on you," as she got hit again. Naruto, who was in the shadows watching her and controlling the dummy, thought, "I will make sure you have a better life, even if it's without me, Hinata. I promise." Kushina said, "You're falling for her." Naruto thought, "Am I? I don't know." Kushina said, "You told her nearly everything, son. The only thing you did not tell her was that it was you who tricked Sasuke in the first place to attack her." Naruto closed his eyes and thought, "Back then I thought of her as a stepping stone to help me, but then, I don't know, I changed somehow. I actually started feeling for her, and that's when I first started seeing her in the future. I don't know what these feelings are, but I know I want to protect her and see her happy." Kushina said, "It's love, son. You're falling in love with her." Naruto thought, "But why should she love me? I am the reason for her current pain and suffering. Ouch, that one she might actually castrate me for." Kushina winced and said, "It might be a good idea to stay away from her the rest of the day. Not many women get hit at the exact same time with stun staffs across the breast and be in good moods later. Damn, she flexible, reminds me of Bastilla when we." Naruto thought, "What was that, mom? I heard you say Hinata was flexible, but I lost the rest." Kushina said, "I said I think she's going to be great." And thought, "I can't tell him about after battle urges yet. He's not ready to know them, or his mother's life." Naruto watched Hinata for another few moments when Hinata was sent flying back by 2 staffs to the stomach, and he used force speed to get behind her and catch her before she hit her head on the wall. Hinata turned quickly, still pissed off and high on adrenaline from training as well as emotionally disturbed, and looking at Naruto she screamed, "You!" as she grabbed his head and slammed the back of it against the wall before she slammed her lips to his before slamming his head against the wall again before going back to the training exercise. Naruto said as he moved his fingers in front of his face, "Ooh, swirly." Kushina thought as she saw what Hinata did, or maybe I might need to have that talk after all. I guess it is true, it don't matter if you're male or female, when you're revved up like that on adrenaline and hormones, the only way to fix it is physical or release. God, I'm lonely. And that's it for part 2 of Naruto Trained by Sith Kushina. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful Naruto What If fanfics. Comment below what you think Naruto's next dark evolution will be. Thanks for watching, see you in the next video.